If your American tax day is almost here, even if you don't have a business that you need help with, I've recently started using Molly Morris from M3 Virtual Accounting to help with my household budget and expenses. And it's proved to be a really good call. Having me and Owen get together and go over our budget with a third party sort of overseeing things has been really helpful in getting things under control with our spending. And she's also still doing my books for Unspoiled. So I just really recommend her on every front, no matter what it is that you need. Check her out at m3virtualaccounting.com and get a free consultation to see if she can help you. m3virtualaccounting.com.
This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Some Spoiled, A Song of Ice and Fire. To the co-host Switcheroo, the rereading, Return to Westeros, HBO spoiler edition, content censored too hard for TV, bringing you the greatest hits from I Didn't Check the Publication Date on this book. Call in with your suggestions to 1-800-I-DON'T-CARE. In this episode, RoShawn and I are going to finally begin A Feast for Crows, the prologue and chapter 1, The Prophet. In these chapters, well, we have another prologue with a man who winds up dead in the end. It's a very sorry situation. Sorry, guy. And then we hang out with somebody who is a lot. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now, kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm RoShawn.
All right, so we're beginning this book. It's the new age. We're entering into the post-show, not even post, but it's the divergence.
Ah, the divergence.
What do you think so far of what we've got? Because Dampere is I think he's briefly in the show as a two-line character, and then Loki never seen again.
Yeah, we see him once or twice. We see him for the King's Moot. Kind of, I can't, not obviously, but unsurprisingly, I can't remember all the details, but I vaguely remember the King's Moot being the way that they say they're going to decide the next ruler.
Mm-hmm.
But the details are very, very nebulous.
Indeed.
It's funny, we ended the last book with the epilogue of going along with this guy who we really didn't know very well,
Mm-hmm.
and spending a lot of time in his head to get to the eventual point of the epilogue, really, which is the Stoneheart reveal.
Right.
And so then we start this book with with a prologue where we're hanging out with, people now that I don't know any of these fucking people.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in a new location. We're in Old Town, which I don't think we've been to.
Correct.
And it turns out that these guys, these are all students at the Citadel training to be maesters.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool, just to be in a different part of this world that I haven't really had a chance to see yet.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because I really am bored by this prologue. I really am. And I'm not I don't really it just feels like it takes a long time to go anywhere.
And it doesn't really go anywhere.
It doesn't, kind of.
I will say that it's because I know we have talked about it and made jokes about it over the course of the podcast about how news travels around Westeros and what's it like when people hear stories. So, because of where Old Town is located, and I took a little gander at the handy dandy maps.
Hey.
They are like right on one of the oceans, or on the coast of some kind, where they have lots of sailors coming and going.
Mm-hmm.
And they are bringing these stories of what's happening in Essos over to Westeros. So there are all of these like crazy stories about dragons being back and like, a dragon queen. And it's like people are just like, oh, those are all stories. They're tall tales. And then another guy's like, I don't know. A lot of these details are matching up. It doesn't matter who you talk to. So that part was kind of cool.
Yeah, I did like that. He's like,
Right.
yeah, when you talk to like 6 different ships full of people and they all say the exact same thing, that stops being a rumor and starts being, we all saw that shit.
So yeah, so I enjoyed that piece of it too. And also it feels like it tracks because of where they are located. You're just like, oh yeah, they're not that far. I mean, just across the water from where everything is jumping off, But we spent a lot of time with this guy whose POV we're in, this Pate guy.
Yes.
And he is single-minded.
Very much so.
And halfway through, I was like, this doesn't seem healthy. Right? Like initially, I was like, oh, maybe this is a sweet little love story. But then it's really what it is that there's like a daughter of a brothel. I don't know if she's an owner or just a worker, but she has a daughter and she's basically selling her virginity to the highest bidder.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of really takes the shine off of this being a sweet little love story.
Yeah, the whole way that this goes too is that Pate is like talking about how he'll be able to like, tell her that she was his, and it's all done with this sort of like, obviously she'll be very glad to hear that, but we never really hear anything indicating that she'll be glad to hear that.
We haven't heard
that indicates that she likes him in any way.
Nope.
Like
nope. This is all just from his point of view.
Yep.
He has decided that they are meant to be. He's clearly infatuated, and not that can't go two ways, but often it does not.
Yep.
Every once in a while you can be infatuated with someone and they will return in kind the same feeling.
It's magical.
But it's super rare that it works like that.
It really is.
And so by the end of this, when we have we never even meet her. We never see her. We have no idea what she's looking forward to in life, how she feels about any of this. And then you have this kid who is so fucking sprung. He is... Also, I think it's important to mention, it's not just the infatuation with her. Even though they don't come out and say it, I feel like the subtext is that he is not excelling at being a student.
Very much so,
at
yeah.
the Citadel. It's 5 years. He hasn't earned a single link whatsoever. He keeps failing his tests. And I feel like sometimes when you are not succeeding at the thing you thought you were meant to do and it's not going your way, you start hyperfixating on other shit.
Yep.
So that makes me feel like the thing he's got with Rosie is even less genuine because he's channeling all of this like resentment, and like sort of self-loathing at not flourishing, resentment at his duty. He's been assigned to take care of a maester who is past his prime and practically like senile.
Mm-hmm.
So Pate is feeling a way about that. And he's just funneling all this energy into this seemingly very one-sided infatuation with this girl.
Yeah.
To the point where he is about to risk his whole life by robbing, the maester that he works for and selling this key to put it nicely, a somewhat shadowy figure. Right?
Did this figure ring any bells for you?
This figure, if it's not our boy, it's at least a fucking whatchamacallit man, a faceless man. If it's not Jaqen,
correct.
If it's not him specifically, it's one of them dudes though.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel really like I don't know if I'm supposed to take that away, but
no, I'm pretty sure you are.
Okay, because I was like, this one of them dudes.
Yeah,
but I don't know what it is he's after, Yeah, I mean,
definitely.
Because we find out that this key is supposedly a key that opens every door. and we know that the Citadel houses like priceless artifacts and histories. So they could be after like information on how to do a thing or fight a thing or stop a thing, or they could be after an object, which I don't even want to begin to imagine what it could be, So I don't know what it is they're looking for there. And I don't know. I haven't decided if I think it's dangerous or if I think it's good, because I don't really know anything about the Faceless Men, like how they, like in the show, from what I remember in the show, they existed, but they existed outside of the, let's call them like the petty grievances of man, like they didn't have an allegiance to a particular king or ruler or realm. You know what I mean? They kind of operated for hire. And the only thing that they had an allegiance to or valued or worshipped or anything would be like their god, death, right? That's it. Everything else is like outside of their fucking what they give a fuck about. So I don't know if in the books they become a larger part of, like, if you think about the overarching thing that's happening in the books, which is the sort of like great fight that's coming, which is really going to be about humanity versus the others. I don't know if the Faceless Men like have a stake in this fight.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Like I don't know if they are also, because they're like magic too, so
they definitely got something going on,
so I don't know if they're like clued in and they also know that something is rising and they are maybe have a path that they have to take, or it could just be a big box of gold that he wants to go steal. Like, I really don't know. I don't know. But, so yeah, so we spend like this fucking Leo guy. There's just a couple of things in this prologue that struck me. I have to mention too, this hasn't come up for a while, and I'm not going to do a whole thing about it, but I have to make sure I mention it. There was a really, being a Black person reading books like this, where Black people as we understand them in our modern world don't exist, right? Like, these books are all about race doesn't exist in the way that we think of it, Everybody just happens to be white except the people that aren't.
Yep.
And that's really it. We're not going to have any other conversations about it, So you spend most of these books and everybody is just white, and you get used to it and it's fucking whatever, You have a couple people that you meet that aren't like the Thraki, You get some people that aren't like white, but they're also not white. You get the Dornishmen and all that. And then every once in a while, somebody will wander through the story from like the Summerlands. And I am forever jarred by that appearance. And there is a line that I don't know why this is included. And all I can imagine is that it is the kind of sort of seemingly benign oversight that can accompany whiteness when you're talking about others. He has Leo, and when I say he, I mean George Martin, has Leo say to the guy they call the Sphinx that his father fucked a monkey.
Yep.
And I would like to ask George Martin, why? Why is that in this? Why am I reading that? And I'm sure people all across the fandom were like, well, he didn't mean it like that. You got to make everything about race. Well, you very rarely ever talk to me about Black people in these books. And the one or two times that you do make sure that I know that somebody is Black, you make sure you follow it up with something like this. And this is not the first time. So I just want to make sure that you all know that I saw that. But
I feel like it's supposed to be like, well, he wants you to know that this guy is a piece of shit, bigoted asshole. But I mean, we kind of had picked that up on already.
Yeah.
We didn't really need it.
Didn't really need that,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And if that's the best you can do to tell me that somebody is a despicable person, then you need to go practice writing some more.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, but for the most part, even though there's not a lot that happens, I kind of just enjoyed these guys and the description of like their life at the Citadel.
All right, good. Because I was like listening to it and just kind of being like, oftentimes prologues and epilogues are particularly memorable for like specific reasons. We've got the whole one with what is his name? Chet. What's the name of the guy from the Night's Watch who wound up on the Fist of the First Men, like about to kill Sam, and then he pisses himself when he hears the others coming?
Oh shit! What is his name? I can't remember
his
his
name.
Chet?
I feel like it is, but I may be wrong. But yeah, that and the whole like Stoneheart epilogue and everything, all of these are big moments that sort of stick in your mind, and when you get to those epilogues, it's like, oh, this is that one, awesome. And this one, I started it and I had no memory of any of this at all. I will be perfectly honest. Like the only thing that really, once we reached the point where he's talking to a strange person, I was like, oh, okay, this is the epilogue that has Jaqen Hagar in it for a second. But that was as much as I recalled. So I was sort of like, what are we going to talk about here?
That's really the whole takeaway from the prologue, though. Mm-hmm. It really is. Mm-hmm. That's like the only thing. I mean, there's like I said, it's filling in some like, actually, it's just like a lot of filler, quite frankly.
It feels like that to me.
But because again, these are like people I don't know, and we're in Old Town, which I haven't really been to. I really like enjoyed like. He starts talking about like who's in charge, and like Leo is like a Tyrell. There's a mention of Hightower, a place, as opposed to the people. But then I was like, oh, the Hightowers, I know about them, and so that was kind of fun too.
There's a lot of things like that, and I'm going to read you some of the notes that Austin sent me because what I noticed about the notes that he sent me is that this is a prologue very rich in Easter eggs for people who are familiar with the series, who know names and remember things and make certain connections or like read ancillary material. So he first starts off with, this is a bit of an odd prologue and mostly serves to give us some insight into how the Citadel works and how people are starting to hear about Dany and her dragons. We meet Alaris the Sphinx, the young half Dornish, half Summer Islander novice. It is highly suspected by fans that Alaris is actually Sarella, named backwards, the bastard daughter of Oberyn Martell, who is said to want to be a scholar. So that's something interesting there. But it is, you would not know about this at this point. We hear about Marwyn the Mage, one of the few maesters interested in magic. Previously, we had heard that he taught Miri Mazdur, the magi that cursed Khal Drogo, and that Qyburn held him in high regard. So another like sort of, if you remember that and put that together, but a lot of first-time readers probably wouldn't remember this. We learn about the glass candles, which can only be lit by magic, and which the maesters use to teach magic doesn't exist, and that Marwyn has succeeded in lighting one. And then from the description of the man who killed Pate, he is almost certainly Jaqen Hagar, as his description fits the new face he took after he left Arya. So that's the extent of the stuff, but it's like not anything that's like hugely important to our main plot. And the theories about who certain people are, it remains to be seen how important that it turns out to be either. So I honestly, this is like mostly for flavor. And I'm not mad at that in general. I like flavor. I like character stuff, but because these books are so enormous, I've lost a little bit of patience with that. And I'm just sort of like, can we stick to the fucking topic at hand, please?
I especially now considering that it's been ages and ages and he still hasn't come out with that book. So when you go back and you see how much time he spent on other shit, it is doubly frustrating.
Yeah, very much so. But yeah, so like this whole thing is just people hanging around, bullshitting with each other, talking about the likelihood of the dragons existing, the whole thing with Rosie, which really we don't need to get into any further than we have. And lazy Leo is just out here taking shots at absolutely everybody, really has like a superiority complex.
Yeah, trying to get people to buy his drinks for him, even though he's clearly like the richest one there, comes from like a highborn family. It just like, you know, spoiled and entitled and arrogant seems to be like his whole jam. This poor paid kid, they keep calling him a pig something.
Pig boy?
A pig boy, a pig farmer, or something. That's not like super complimentary.
Yeah, and apparently the Pate the pig boy is from what amounts to like a series of fairy tales kind of thing, where the dude always winds up winning, but only because he is so dumb that he winds up accidentally being smart.
Right, yeah.
And so he like wins, but it's just very commonly accepted that he is not smart. And so this dude is low-key like, why the fuck would anybody name their kid after that character? My mom had to have fucking hated me. That's the only explanation. I really felt for him on that one.
He also has this like fantasy of like escaping his life here and taking Rosie and then just like wandering around Westeros with a donkey, like just, you know.
Sounds great, Paige. Sounds so fun.
You know, and, you know, as somebody who's also sometimes feels trapped, you know, in a life that is not, you know, everything that they thought it would be, I also think about just getting a donkey and roaming around the lands, you know.
Listen, you should do it and then do a fucking podcast about it. My life with the donkey.
Well, never mind.
I knew I didn't say it. I would like it on the record. I kept that shit to myself.
But yeah, so he's spending this night because he's has been told that he's going to meet this stranger back at this inn and exchange this key that he's stolen for the gold that this man has promised him that he's then going to use to buy old girl's virginity. But he gets here and his whole crew is there. And he's in this position to be like, fuck, well, it's going to look super weird if I just go sit at the table by myself.
Yeah. So
he ends up having to go sit with them, even though his head is not like in the game whatsoever. So they're really having all this conversation kind of around him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like in his own head focused on what he's about to do and what he's trying to accomplish. And then Leo shows up. And then eventually everybody leaves except Leo. And Pate is like, well, fuck, I got to stay because this dude may show up. So I guess I'm just going to sit here with Leo now. And this is terrible. So then they have like a little bit of alone time and it's like awkward and weird. And Leo is just really saying some gross shit about Rosie, trying to get a rise out of Pate because he knows how he feels. And then eventually the sun comes up and this stranger, the alchemist, doesn't show. And Pate is like, well, fuck. And he goes to leave to head home. It's funny too the way it's written. It's like he's like standing outside as if he could just walk away from his entire life, but yet his feet take him right back to the citadel.
Fucking understandable. That's
and
a relatable,
right?
One.
Yeah. And then he ends up bumping into the stranger. And you know, I say bump in, but the stranger was like waited for him to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
And they're about to have the exchange, and Pate starts to get like, I don't know, second thoughts almost, kind of like after he gives him the key, he's just like, or right before he's about to give him a key, suddenly he's concerned with, well, hey, what you looking for?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what exactly do you want? And the alchemist is like, that's fucking none of your business. You're gonna give me the key, right? And
it's always a good sign.
So he's like, all right. So he hands him the key, and he asks to see his face, and then that's when we get the description of the stranger. And then when he answers, he says, who are you? And he goes, a stranger, no one truly. And then he thinks it's done, and starts to head home, and then just fucking drops to the ground like dead. And at first I had to read it twice because it was weird, because the way it's written, it says the cobblestones rushed up to kiss him, right? Mm-hmm. And it was so weird because we had just read the first chapters of the second Raybearer book last night, where we have the Phantom Kid that gets kind of swallowed up into the ground.
Oh, yeah.
So my brain went to that. And then I was like, oh, wait, no. This is just some flowery writing. This motherfucker just fucking dropped. And I don't know, like, he takes the gold coin and bites it because he's like, this is what people do when they get gold, right? Mm-hmm. And I really laugh because he bites it and he thinks to himself, I'm not really sure what it's supposed to feel like.
Yeah, he's like, I'm doing this so that I don't look like a fool,
right? But
I don't have any data to go with on this anyway, so it's not meaningful, which makes you look like a fool, by the way.
Right. But. And so this is what happens. He's poisoned, right? This is what happens here. So that's unfortunate for him.
Oh, that is so cold.
And all I could think too was like what
that's a shame.
What if he didn't bite the coin, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, so because then the thing is, like, I guess the nature of being an assassin is like understanding how people behave and what they are most likely to do. So by rights, yeah, it's like standard. You bite the gold coin and make sure it's real. So I'm going to poison the coin. Like, that's going to work 9 times out of 10. But when you think about the fact that this kid only does it because he thinks this is what people do.
Yeah.
You know?
And I'm assuming that this like character study that the assassin had to do knew he wasn't a great student and stuff, and was like probably sort of self-conscious about the fact that he doesn't know as much as he should, and was like, yeah, even if he doesn't know how to tell, I bet he just does the thing that everybody does.
Yeah.
So how embarrassed would you be though? Like, oh my God. To be not even that you're poisoned, not even that they predicted exactly what you do, but that you are like that predictable.
My question is, what does the assassin do if this kid doesn't bite the coin? What was your plan B?
Probably just to stab him in the back.
Oh, that's so undignified.
I think that's it though. It's like the test is, if I have to take my knife out, I'm not good as an assassin, and I'm going to have to go home and go to bed early with no dinner as a punishment because I should have gotten this right. This kid is very transparent. That's what I'm going to, this is sort of like a pop quiz. It's not even an exam exactly. It's just sort of like an easy gimme sort of. And like, if you don't get this, then not great.
Right. I tried to help.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's it for Pate. He's down like a fucking sack of dirt. Mm-hmm. And his last thought was of Rosie, which is also like his every thought was of her. So
yeah,
that feels right. So yeah, he dies without ever like getting a chance to be with the girl that he's like ruining his life for.
Oh, that was I didn't think about it like that, but wow, ouch. So yeah, that's the end of the prologue, which is like, guys, I just want to, I'm not going to harp on this, but like that shit in the audiobook was a 40-minute prologue. And for what? I just don't feel like that was necessary. I'm sorry.
It was 40 minutes?
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of long. It did go on for quite some time.
It goes on a long while. And I just don't like I'm not saying it has no value at all, but I feel like it's the kind of thing that it just doesn't really work for me and might have been a better thing to happen later on.
There's one other thing I have to mention. Where is it? Because I couldn't believe how many times he said it. There was a description of the cider. The fearfully strong cider.
TM. Yeah.
I don't know why, but by like the fourth or fifth time I read it, I just started cracking up.
I think that was the intention, honestly. I think that he was doing a bit there.
That makes me feel better.
But yeah.
Like, I in my imagination, like there, as people were traveling down the King's Road or whatever, there's like giant billboards, 10 miles to the fearfully strong cider. Next exit, fearfully strong cider.
You have missed the exit for the fearfully strong cider. All right, I like that. That's canon now. Okay, so then we go to Chapter 1, The Prophet.
Oh, you guys, the fucking Iron Islands. This place is so goddamn depressing.
Honestly.
I mean, there wasn't anything in this chapter that was like super upsetting or like, you know, should make me hate the Iron Islands. But I really do.
Yep.
It's just like there is nothing redeeming about any parts of the way they live. This all sounds terrible. Everybody from here seems terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know why they are part of this book. Why are you part of this story? You are all awful. It's fucking
damn.
And I got reminded of just how much I hated whenever the show did anything with them.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is just gray and rainy and soggy, and there's like gross seaweed everywhere, and everybody looks like they smell, which is really weird because they're surrounded by water, and yet I bet they all stink.
100% agree.
Like
that's cold ass water. I mean,
you know that they go sloshing around in it. You know, seaweed and whatever else all wrapped around their clothes and all in their hair. And then they just, like, they don't bathe in regular water. They're like, oh, I was in the sea all day. I don't need to wash up. But you know what I mean? Like, I hate everything about it.
Yeah. And it's not made better by the perspective that we're in.
So, yeah.
I want to mention this guy, the damp hair. When I first read this book, I never realized it was damp hair.
Listen.
It was damn fair. and it made no sense, but I was willing to go with it because lots of things, the wording for them and the names I didn't get. So I was like, what's one more? No problem. And then I covered it with Brendan and he said damp hair. And I was like, excuse me? Genuinely did not get it. Felt like such a dodo bird. Can I just tell you that Ray Detrice calls him damn fair?
Does he really?
From the jump. And it never changes and is corrected. And I just don't know what the fuck they're doing with this audiobook. Genuinely, come on.
Are we supposed to? No, it's damp hair.
Absolutely, it's damp hair.
Yeah, I know I say like 9.9% of every name wrong, but this shit is damp hair.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even going to fight about it. It just is.
I can't even believe that, like, I made this dumb mistake on my own. They had a whole ass narrator that they paid to do this. And they let him say that. And then they just published it and wanted money for it. Wow.
I imagine it because, you know, his pronunciations of a couple of different things are at least like low-key sus.
Highly questionable.
So now I'm just like, but he's like, you told me that he's like really good friends with George Martin, you know, so maybe like
George, friends don't let friends say damn fair.
Maybe George is like, no, that's how I meant it.
Oh man, if I turned out to have been right in the first place, I'm gonna be real mad.
So we are. This prophet chapter starts with him in the middle of practically murdering a kid.
Yes.
Which I had forgotten.
And being very disdainful of the fact that this kid decides that he would rather not be murdered today.
This kid's fucking self-survival instinct kicks in, and this guy is like, oh, that's a moral failing.
Yep.
How dare you?
Wow, your faith failed you. I guess that's how much you believe in your God. Pathetic.
And this was if not this scene with this particular kid, a scene like this was in the show of him like drowning somebody and then really just performing CPR, but they all think it's magic.
Yes,
you know, it's
yes.
like it's just CPR. But it's like it's easy to sit now and say that, but I imagine, you know, without the understanding that we have now about like how the body works, that shit probably did seem like magic at some point, right? He bent over and gave him the kiss of life, and you're just like,
yeah, it's not. I guess it's not terrible. Sure, at least he doesn't let him die.
Yeah, he brings the kid back, and we find out that he has never lost a person.
Yeah.
Other prophets have had very good numbers, but like even the best of the best lose one every once in a while. And this guy, whose real name is it Aaron?
Aaron Greyjoy, yes.
Has never lost anybody, which just adds to his whole fucking, mystique.
Correct.
It got me thinking too, because there was a quick mention in the prologue about people that follow the red god, R'hllor. And
I don't know why I named him that.
I think I don't know if it's Pate talking or it might be somebody else talking about their how he can hear them praying and chanting, for the night is dark and full of terrors.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about the different gods that we have in these stories, all these different. We have like the old gods, and we got the seven, and then we have the red god, and we've got this fucking water god. And in the show, if I remember, we don't get that much information about the drowned god.
We don't.
We know that there's this vampire guy because, like you said, he shows up like once or maybe twice. But I'm curious if they have a bigger role in the books. And I'm also curious, like, if you think about what religions are best suited for fighting like the evil that is afoot in the north, and we talked about like how the red god seems like right for the job,
yeah, very much so.
You want fire, that's going to help you with this fight. But then I was thinking about like if there's a water god, like how helpful would he be?
Indeed.
I mean, like ice in fire, ma'am.
It's slipped out. Please forgive me.
But yeah, like I don't know.
To forgive Natasha. She's really declining quickly. She has her good days and bad days.
So yeah, it just made me think about like I wonder like if things came to a head, if you were like to throw in with a god of water, how helpful would he be in the fight against the others, or would it like not matter at all? But it seems like, at least from the show, overall the feeling is that the Greyjoys and anything that they fuck with doesn't matter really in the larger scheme of things.
Very much. They feel very separate from everything. And the whole like pay the iron price, it's basically us admitting that we don't produce any of the necessary shit and have to steal all of our luxuries, and we've just changed the whole vibe of it from pathetic to somehow noble and
right
strong.
It's very sort of sour grapes,
It feels like that to me.
But even Aaron is thinking about like some of the there's a bit where he's thinking about like the things that are growing in the world, and the magic that's sort of like coming back, which kind of echoes some of the things that the boys are talking about in the prologue too.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a something in the air that everybody is aware of, things are changing, something is coming back into the world that wasn't here for a long time, whether it's dragons or other kinds of magic.
Yes.
So yeah, he's in the middle of raising this kid back to life, and he has company, and there's people he have come to tell him that the king is dead, who is also his brother, because now we find out that he is Balon's brother, and
There's a lot. I just want to mention, like, you're talking about character flavor. There's a lot of judgment of every little thing that people do in his chapter. Like, there's a guy who comes to tell him that you need to come because you've been summoned, and the dude is saying this from on top of his horse, and Aaron is like, ugh, he doesn't want to get down off his horse because he doesn't want to get his boots wet. And just like that kind of thing where every move anybody makes is met with this disdain and judgment. It's really, really pervasive.
Very, very fucking, like, we find out too that his whole deal is that he was, you know, he had all these brothers. He was like the youngest, and he was a fucking drunkard, it sounds like, whose life was like, he was wasting his life away. You know, he wasn't about anything. And, you know, he has a brother that was, I think he said they were in battle, and that he was captured. Aaron even was captured and was prisoner for a while. And then he has this like sort of life and death experience and comes out on the other side sort of like a changed and saved person. So he's got that fucking self-righteousness that a lot of like born again people will have. There's a moment where he's talking to this kid, these people that show up to give him the news about his brother, and he asks if they have been whatever word it is for like being baptized or blessed or whatever. And they're like, yeah, when I was a kid. And he thinks to himself, yeah, they just probably sprinkled some water over your head when you were a baby. That shit doesn't count, you know?
Yeah. Which is, again, like, it's just an assumption he's making. And if it is true, that's a baby. He was a baby. Like, what is, does he drown babies? I have to assume he drowns babies. Right? I mean, he seems like the kind of guy that's drowning babies.
I was hoping that this whole ritual happened at the age where they sort of become a man. I was hoping.
That's an interesting question. I don't know. But the whole thing here, and this is like, you know, my shit that I'm bringing into it, but I can't help it. His whole energy is just so my dad. The fundamentalism, the judgment, I almost ruined my life, and the fact that I have been saved and found is proof that my faith is the real faith, and also that anybody can come back from anything, and the fact that I did is proof of God's favor toward me. And just the whole like energy of this guy is so familiar to me, and I find it really funny how much I was able to like be okay with my dad in a lot of ways while struggling with so much of his beliefs, and this character allows me the space to just hate him. I hate him so much. I hate his misogyny. I hate his judgment. I hate his like assurance that whatever he chooses is therefore God's choice also. It's just so played, and I don't enjoy reading it. And that doesn't mean that like I don't think that his character is sort of compelling in its way, because it is. And the world building of the Iron Islands, like, this adds a lot to that. But I just hate him. And that's where I stand with this character.
I think that's fair because, you know, this is my first time reading him, but he's really unlikable.
Women can't rule. Their battles are meant to be fought in the childbed or whatever. And I'm just like, ugh, what are you, fucking HBO writer?
Again with that. Anytime anyone tries to talk to him or ask him a question, he's basically just like, I don't have to answer to you. I only answer to the gods, you know? And it's when he realizes who's here to talk to him, he thinks to himself, okay, it's one of the good brothers. It's one of Gorold's sons. And then he's like, well, they all look the same. It could be Graydon or Gorman or Gran. It doesn't matter. I have no time for any of them. It's like he doesn't even know who's here to talk to him, and doesn't even think it's important to find out who's here to talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
And then, they show up with this like important news to give him. And before they can even say why they are here, the first thing he asks them is like, again, when have you been drowned?
Yeah.
And they're just like, yeah, that's really not why we're here. Though. I'm here to bring you back to my father. And Aaron is just like, I'm not going nowhere. I got shit to do. He's got even judgments about the fact that news comes on ravens.
Yes. When he's like made to ride a horse, he's like, ugh, horses. I guess I have to ride it, but I don't like it. And I want it registered that I don't like it. Nobody cares, Aaron. Nobody cares.
Right? They tell him that, ravens come, and he's like, dark wings, dark words. And then he says the ravens fly over salt and stone. Like, you could have just sent the raven to me. You didn't have to fucking come down and tell me nothing. And again, they're just like, this shit is important, dude. Like, we're here to tell you some real shit. Can we talk in private? No! Tell me right now in front of everybody. I have no secrets.
Make everything into a goddamn production.
And finally, the guys are just like, oh, okay. All right, you know what? King's dead. How about that? And they just say it with no nothing, no cushion.
Good.
And then we he thinks, we have a moment where he's thinking about because he says there are 4 kings in Westeros now, but Aaron doesn't need to ask which one because we know which one we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And he mentions the last time he had seen his brother, and that he didn't look great, but he didn't look like he was like on death's door. And the story is that he's fallen from a bridge. I will say, I remember on the show that it's fucking the brother who just flips him over the side of the bridge. I don't know if that's a show invention or if that's really what's happening here.
I'll tell you that's a show invention.
Shut the fuck up. Is it really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting. All right.
And it's not, I'm not saying that's not potentially like part of the thing, but that's not something that we know. Okay, cool. So, because so fucking Damphair is like, well, the Storm guys are angry. I cannot stand this man. I swear to God. Everything is like a portent. Guys, I'm just gonna really try and like keep a lid on.
Yeah.
His is like the POV that I won't say I hate the most, because there's another one that it's pretty bad, but it's the one that I get the most like personally fucking infuriated by. Like, it's a little triggering, probably is what it is, But yeah, just the whole like everything means something and it's God speaking to me. Yeah, this was my dad, 100%. And it was just fucking endless. And it was really remarkable how if a thing happened that made it look like he was wrong, it was not mentioned. It simply wasn't acknowledged as having happened. But if it supported something that he said, or could be twisted to look like it supported something he said, then you would never hear the fucking end of it.
Oh, jeez. Ugh.
Exactly.
I know I've had a couple of those type of people in my life over the years, and it is really infuriating because you cannot reason with them because they are not coming from a place of reason.
Exactly.
So like there's nothing you can do with them.
Which is what's really funny, because people like that often act like they're the logical one. My dad definitely thought of himself as somebody who was like less emotional and more logical, and it just the irony of that. Yeah,
I take it that he did not see.
Oh, he sure didn't. Like, eventually in his life he calmed down a little bit on like just how fundamentalist he was about absolutely everything. Because I mean, I think I've mentioned on the show before that like I had poison dart frog models from the Science Museum, and he didn't want them in the house because frogs were of the devil. Like
frogs? What did they do?
Anything reptilian he saw as like demonic.
Oh, because like a snake. So and then the Satan.
Yeah,
Jesus. That's
basically that's a logic. A snake and then the Satan. That's it.
That's a leap.
I mean, and I repeat, they were from the Science Museum poison dart frog models of a thing that exists that is real.
That his God made.
That exactly. But for whatever reason, like this doesn't count because it gave my dad the heebie-jeebies, and so he just decided, obviously, these are of the devil.
Oh my God.
Anyway, I'm sorry, everybody. It's just I have very strong feelings about this fucking character.
There's a point when he's because Dampier ends up taking this horse and going to meet this good brother, I think is their name.
That's I think is good brother like a brother-in-law.
I thought so too, but I think this is
maybe it's a name.
Yeah, I think
it's capitalized in a way that I don't think they do.
Yeah, he refers to his whole family. Like when they show up, the sigil they're wearing is the war horn of the Good Brothers.
Ah, okay,
so
yeah.
One of Gorold's sons, Gorold Goodbrother, I guess. And then all his sons have names as Graydon, Gorman, and Grant. Calm down.
Somebody found one letter of the alphabet, and they were just like, "This is all I need."
But so he goes, takes his kid's horse, goes up there to have this meeting with this guy, and this is when he starts thinking about like his family. And we learned that there were like 9 sons, and all but 4 fell to some sort of bad end.
Mm-hmm.
And there's Balin, and there's Aaron, there's Euron, and then there's what's the fucking
Victarion?
Victarion, yes, that's the other one. And he just was a piece of shit. This is when we find out also that like he was terrible. Balin, Aaron.
Okay.
Balin is out here just setting the world on fire.
Mm-hmm.
He's accomplishing shit. He's a warrior and I don't know, just making a real name for himself. And Aaron is just out here drinking and being an ass.
Mm-hmm.
He describes himself as like he was a juggler and
he says jokes. I was just a wineskin with legs, which I did think was pretty funny, actually.
So, my God, this meeting with this guy, this man, where's Gorman? This family name, I got so confused. At one point, Aaron,
I consider myself a bit of a gourmand.
Somebody opens the door. And Aaron just says, "Which one are you?"
Rude.
Oh God! He tries to get this man to put his maester out of the room, which is funny because when they wanted to talk to Dampier in private, he was like, "No," but then he wants to talk to this guy in private, and this guy is like, "No."
That cracked me up, and that is completely lost on him. He doesn't see it at all.
Nope.
He just says, "Well, then I guess I'll leave."
Yeah, starts storming out.
I was really like wondering are they gonna be like, no, never mind, he'll leave. But instead they just like blurt out what the news is, so that they know they'll grab him and keep him from leaving, which was smart.
Yeah, I like too as he's like storming out. Aaron tells himself that the problem here is that this man lives too far from the sea, and that like that's what his problem is. Like if he just lived a little bit closer to the water, he wouldn't be all fucked up like this. Like this is why he doesn't know how to act. So yeah, they tell him that the Euron is sitting on what they call the sea stone chair. I love how every place has a fancy name for the biggest chair in their house.
Yes, they do.
I was trying to think of the because on House of the Dragon it was with the Valerians where it was called Driftwood, I think was their little
Driftmark,
and they had a name for their little fancy chair too.
What was it? Driftwood?
I can't remember, but yeah, it's really these books are just about a series of ever increasingly fancier chairs. It's really what's happening here in these books.
All right, hold on, I'm gonna put that on my fucking postcard thing. These books are really about a series of ever increasingly fancy chairs. All right, perfect. Saved.
I feel like that's true, though.
I mean, that's why I saved it. It's the truth that makes it so poignant and moving and meaningful.
So this little brother, who Euron's got a cool nickname, Euron Crow's Eye. What can you tell me about that?
I sure won't tell you fucking anything about Euron, because you have got to meet Euron, and then you won't have any further questions. All I'll say is that the show didn't go anywhere like far enough.
Really?
With Euron Greyjoy.
Really? Because
it was such a disappointment.
The guy on this show was doing a lot.
He was, and it was all the wrong lot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
really?
It was not, it just, there's, I can't say anymore.
Oh,
you see?
I don't know whether to be excited or terrified. I'm a little bit both.
I don't want to build him up too much, but honestly, like, it's fine.
Well, all I know about him is that, one, he is not supposed to be here, because Dampere is like, what?
Yeah.
He's supposed to be on the other side of the world. And he was told that if he ever came home, it would be his life, which I am dying to know. What did you do?
Yeah.
That made your brother tell you have to get the fuck out of here and you can never, ever, ever, ever come back. I can't wait to get that story. But he has come back, and I love this part too, because they're just like, he sailed into Lordsport the day after the king died. And like, I wanted someone to be like, that seems really suspicious. But no one says it out loud. Maybe they're all thinking it, but like, they're just like, yeah, he stood up the next day and fucking sat in that chair and was like, I'm king now. And now everybody is supposed to come and show up and bend the knee and express their loyalty to him.
Yep.
And Dampere says no, as if someone had asked him. But he says no. And then it's just like, he is not godly enough to sit on the fucking chair. He's not saved enough. He's not sanctified. He cannot sit in that chair. But the thing is, who's going to sit there though? And this is where we start to really get into what kind of man Dampere is and the kind of people that the Iron Island people are. Because everybody kind of knows that Balon Greyjoy wanted his daughter to succeed him.
Yes.
And everybody kind of treats it like he's sort of like not facing reality.
Deluded, yeah.
You know, like a woman can't rule. And he just refused to admit it. He thought he would, but she can't rule. And Aaron seems to believe that as well. Just that like a woman can never ever rule the Ironborn. Not even someone as great as her. He's like, oh, she's fantastic. But she's a woman, so she can't rule. And
which is something familiar from Fire and Blood. Everybody being like, yeah, of course, dude. Yeah, whatever you want. Yeah, no. Exactly. We're not doing that.
And then they start talking about Theon a little bit. And somebody, I don't know if it's the Maester or if it's the Good Brother guy, but one of them is like, well, the fucking chair goes like it belongs to Theon or Asha. It's his children. Like, that's how fucking line of succession works. And Aaron is like, Greenland law, which, reading it really quickly, I was like, what?
I thought this was a fictional
What
universe.
is fucking, what? For just like a second, my brain was just not doing its very best. But yeah, basically, everything that is of what they consider to be Greenland, people who live off the land, who don't live from the sea, is trash and is not worth anything. And there's no respect for their laws, no respect for their traditions. So yeah, he basically is just like the fucking line of succession. That's their shit. That's not our law. We don't have to follow that.
But what's interesting is like he just doesn't. He as much as he's saying that this is all the way that it's done, a lot of the other Iron Islanders don't feel like they're in agreement with him about it. So he's trying to bring them back to a previous age of how they used to live. And the fucking rest of them a lot of them moved on without him.
Yeah, he seems like he's very much sort of the leader of an extremist cult.
Definitely.
Like granted, it's their tradition, and it's based on like the way that their people, used to worship and used to believe. But it seems like the rest of the Ironborn are just like out here trying to live. And him and his bedraggled followers are out drowning each other at the sea every morning to make a point. Mm-hmm. But they don't really seem like they have anything to do with the day-to-day living of people and like helping people get through their individual days. And, they're just walking around claiming to have a better understanding of their people and their people's history than everybody else does,
Yeah.
It's big. You don't know as much as I know energy, If you knew what I knew, you'd be taking me more seriously and listening to what I'm telling you if you knew what I knew.
Yeah.
Oh my God. They also ask about this missing brother, this Victorian. And the Maester is trying to make a claim that Euron should get the chair because he's older. Mm-hmm. And then there's this moment where it just says Aaron silenced him with a look. And it was a look that would make maids feel faint and send children shrieking to their mothers. He also calls the Maesters chain neck thralls, which
yep.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, he's basically like anybody who would enslave himself to another, like, anything other than the drowned god, basically, is pathetic and weak and sad. Mm-hmm. And he just sees this in such a literal way. And it's simply not, that's not what it, okay.
Yeah.
No, sure. Mm-hmm.
There's talk of Theon, but the wolves have made a weakling of him, as I feared, the king had said. This is supposed to be what Theon's father had told Aaron of Theon, which is just a real fucking bummer. And he also, Aaron claims that the king told him, I pray God that they killed him so he cannot stand in Aisha's way. Which also, damn, that's your son, though. Jesus Christ. Just a terrible, terrible people.
I love this part where he's, okay, so let's see. Will it come to war between them? Asked the Maester. Ironborn must not spill the blood of Ironborn. A pious sentiment, Damp Hair, said Good Brother, but not one that your brother shares. He had Swain Botley drowned for saying the Sea Stone chair by rights belonged to Theon. If he was drowned, no blood was shed, said Aaron. Listen. The Maester and the Lord exchanged a look. I bet they fucking did.
Yeah, that's that kind of fucking weird logic that you can't argue with, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So they have brought him here because they want to know what Aaron thinks. Like, who are we? What are we doing? Mm-hmm. Are we going to send word that we support him? Are we sending word that we don't? Like, what is our next move? They have really asked him here for counsel because they don't know what the fuck to do. And he tells them, I got to go pray about it.
I'm going to pray on it.
I got to go pray on it. And the Maester is really like, he's really trying to go toe to toe about this.
He is.
And he actually says, pray all you want. Doesn't change shit. And fucking Aaron, too long have the Ironborn listened to you chain neck maesters prating of the green laws in their lands. Time we listen to the sea again, sir.
I love his voice. His own voice rang in that smoky hall, so full of power that neither Gorold Goodbrother nor his maester dare to reply. And I just love that because he's just interpreting the fact that neither of them answers as like, they're so cowed by my fucking, sir, they were both just like, oh, that's what they were like. Come on.
He absolutely tells himself, oh, this is proof the drowned god is with me. Yeah, anything is a proof. Everything is proof. But he ends up going out and submerging himself into this fucking ice cold water in the middle of the night. We get sort of a backstory of something that happened to one of his brothers where they were playing a game that they call the finger dance. And the best I can imagine is it's got to be that thing you do where you take like the knife and you go through your fingers real fast. Is that it?
I believe it's not that tame. I think it's done with axes, actually. But,
yeah, he says
similar vibe.
Yeah, he definitely says it's an axe. But,
okay.
But so he misses. Oh no, he doesn't miss. The brother gets hit and loses a couple fingers. And then the way that the mother opts to deal with this, who is not his mother, his father has remarried, is she sends the boy to a maester instead of handling it the way I guess they would have handled it themselves. And the boy ends up dying. Yeah.
The maester is convinced that he can like save his fingers and sews them back on instead of just letting them be amputated, I guess. Which is, I guess, what he thought was preferable.
And it says that the third wife ended up dying as well. Doesn't really explain like what happened, but it says that there was a stillborn daughter, but it's clear that Aaron is carrying like this guilt and has these nightmares about this. And
there's the scream of a rusty hinge, and he wakes up and like freaks out. It's a weird moment.
Yeah, and then towards the end of this chapter, it says something about him being able to sleep without the sound of the door opening him up, like waking him up. But yeah, and this is also, we find out this accident is what really sent him down that spiral of being just sort of like a drunk who didn't take his life seriously and was just an embarrassment. So eventually
he had a gift of being able to piss further and longer than any other.
He ends up like getting captured by the Lannisters and then also like just still doing that in jail.
Honestly, I get why he doesn't want to be that person anymore, but it sounds like a pretty fun guy in his way.
Sounds like he's better company than what you are now.
Indeed.
But yeah, that man is dead now because Aaron has drowned and been reborn, and now he's got this whole other fucking thing. No mortal man could frighten him anymore, no more than darkness could. And then this is the sound of a door opening, the scream of a rusted iron hinge. Yoren has come again. But it says it doesn't matter because he was the Dampere priest, beloved of the god. So just like knowing his brother is back in town is triggering him. But it doesn't matter because, he's got God on his side. He keeps telling himself.
Yeah, this hinge thing. Do you have any theories about this? Because this sort of language is repeated a couple of times. And you're saying that you think that it's about Eerie who lost his fingers and then died. But what relation would that have?
I don't know. I thought it was just part. I took it literally. I thought it was just part of the memory of. Oh, you know what?
Of what?
I don't know. I think maybe I took it very literally, like the sound of them coming in to tell him that his brother had died, or
okay.
But I guess it's supposed to mean something other than that, which I didn't really give too much thought to. Which I, of course, am now thinking about in great detail.
Well, just, keep an eye on it.
Yeah, because one of the times he wakes up from that sound and he tells himself, there's no hinge here, there's no door, no Yuri. Yeah, I don't know. I just figured that because they're all like together in his brain. Huh. I have to think about that some more.
All right. So, okay, yeah, this description of everything that happened with Yuri and everything, there's some bet he makes about that he can put out a whole like hearth fire just pissing, and he wins and has all of these goats as a payoff for something. The storm god in his wrath plucked Balon from his castle and cast him down, and now he feasts beneath the waves in the drowned god's watery halls. Balon is dead, the king is dead, yet a king will come again, for what is dead may never die, but rises again, harder and stronger, a king will rise. And he's just like yelling this as he's going down the street here. And some people who hear him are so overcome with like inspiration, I guess, touched by the voice of God, that they follow him. They throw down their tools and follow him to get drowned. Which
that's how it goes, though.
I suppose.
So what he ends up, there's a point too where he's thinking about like who's it going to be, and he's remembering that his brother favored his daughter, but a woman cannot rule, and he's like, it's got to be Victarion then, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when he goes back and repeats this line about 9 sons had been born from the loins of Quelling Greyjoy, he keeps saying that's said exactly the same like 2 or 3 times. It's just
the
weird.
loins?
Yeah, I don't. It's almost like it's the beginning of a song or something. The way it's like repeated, almost exactly the same. But he talks about how his brother was the strongest of all of them, and that he was a bull of a man, fearless and dutiful. But then he says, and therein lies our danger, which is, I don't understand why. But then he says, a younger brother owes obedience to an elder, and Victarion was not a man to sail against tradition. So Euron is older, and I
think when he says dutiful, and he says therein lies our danger, it's the idea that he knows his duty and that he shouldn't be the one to take over.
Right, because he respects the idea of traditions, and it's inappropriate for a younger brother to be chosen over an elder brother.
Yeah.
So yeah, he wakes up, goes into the water to commune with God, and again, it says he could taste the smell of salt on his lips and feel the God around him, and his ears rang with the glory of his song. 9 sons were born from the loins of Quelling Greyjoy. There it is again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is like something he just tells himself over and over again. Is he's like, this time it's, and I was the least of them, as weak and as frightened as a girl. Yeah, he's got a lot of self-loathing.
Yeah, he sucks.
Yeah. But he comes out of the water and has had a bit of an epiphany. And he is told that there's been like 2 summonings. Mm-hmm. Either people are going to go to Pike, or they're going, which is Pike is where on the Iron Islands Euron would be, right? Like that's where the seat is, right?
Correct, yes.
And then the other place is something called 10 Towers, and that is where Asha is.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like the big choice. Where are we going? And he says, we're not going nowhere. We're going, and we're going to have a King's Moot. That's what we're going to have.
And everybody's like, oh, what now? Because apparently it has been a long time. And he is like, yeah, it's been too damn long that we've been doing Succession. Mm-hmm. Like we're fucking regular ass windlopers.
There's a split second where it almost seems like they want him to take the seat. Mm-hmm, you know, when he's talking about like who's going to be the king. And then they all start yelling, fucking the damp hair. Give us damp hair. And he's just like, yeah. No.
I did think that was funny. Right?
Like, I understand why you would say it. Like, of course. Why wouldn't it be? Of course you would say me. However, you guys, that's not my path. That's not what I'm here for. And, he tells them the story again of his own salvation. and they're going to, and they don't tell us exactly what a king's moot is, but we do find out that it is the traditional way to select a ruler, and that it has more validity because it is the people choosing who is going to rule them, and making that person sort of prove themselves. Right. So anybody can rise up the ranks, you know. It doesn't matter who you were born to or what your name is. It's more about like, who were you as a person? You know, how strong are you? How fit to lead are you? All that kind of shit.
Campaigning.
Yeah. So yeah, he says this is what we're going to do. They're going to go meet at some place called Old Wick, and to the hill of Naga, and and everybody is here for it.
Yeah.
Well, his people are here for
exactly.
it. Not everybody.
He is influenced very strongly. Is on his side.
He is right now surrounded by a bunch of people who would never say anything, but that is a great idea, sir. So
the clamor that they made was so thunderous that surely the crow's eye heard the shouts on Pike and the vile storm god in his cloudy hall. And Aaron Damphair knew he had done well.
I love that self-congratulatory bit at the end there.
Can't resist it.
He's so satisfied. He's like, yes. I handled this spectacularly. Good job, me. Good job.
Oh, God, that's exactly what he's like.
Like, you know, he's watching everybody like applaud and get excited, and he's just like, yes. You are all very impressed with me, aren't you?
Oh, God, he's so tiresome. All right, so that is the end of the chapter. So, getting off to a real weird start.
It's very strange, yeah. And these two chapters, right? So one was just a prologue, and then this one was called The Prophet. I don't know if that is... Prologue doesn't really count. But they're not, like, named in the way that I'm used to them being named. Mm-hmm. You know, like this chapter wasn't called Aaron or even Damphair, you know?
Yes.
So I'm curious, like, if that is a running thing throughout this book as well, where I'm going to get chapters and it's just going to be some words that mean nothing to me and I have no idea whose POV I'm in. You know? Like, the janitor. And then I'm just reading 4 pages of whatever the fuck the janitor saw happen.
Not Scrubs. Oh, that would be amazing, though.
Chapter 42, the scullery maid. Okay, bitch, what did you see? You know, like, just random people telling me what's going on. Because I wouldn't necessarily be averse to that. Because, you know, there are all kinds of people that are walking the halls, that are hearing conversations, you know, that are, you know, privy to certain bits of information that might not necessarily be the kind of character that I think of would have recurring chapters, you know. But maybe we just pop in and check in with, like, you know, one of the guys on a Kingsguard for a chapter, and he's just telling me, you know, what the fuck he saw Jamie doing or some shit. You know, I don't know.
I like the idea of it being like a Gossip Girl style. Like,
I mean, it could be. You told me that fucking the fucking books that were sort of like the basis for the House of the Dragon was just like a series of accounts from different maesters over the years, which was low key just a lot of gossip.
Very much, yeah, gossip flavored with whatever that particular maester or fool felt like they were going to. It felt like it was going to support their desired, like, reputation for the family they were talking about, or the vibe of what's going to sell the most books, because this is a for-profit book. But yeah, this is just, I feel like this is actually, as much as this is a weird start, it's a good, like, indicator of what the energy is of A Feast for Crows in terms of it being really different. So, you know, I feel like we're getting off tonally on the right foot.
I will tell you that the back, you know, the little description on the back of the book is very, very interesting. I don't know how long it's been since you've read it.
I haven't read it.
All right, it's not very long. It just says, after centuries of bitter strife, the seven powers dividing the land have beaten one another into an uneasy truce. But it's not long before the survivors, outlaws, renegades, and carrion eaters of the seven kingdoms gather. Now as the human crows assemble over a banquet of ashes, daring new plots and dangerous new alliances are formed while surprising faces, some familiar, others only just appearing, emerge from an ominous twilight of past struggles and chaos to take up the challenges of the terrible times ahead. Nobles and commoners, soldiers and sorcerers, assassins and sages are all coming together to stake their fortunes and their lives. For at a feast for crows, many are the guests, but only a few are the survivors. I'm sorry,
That is
what?
So dramatic. Oh my God.
There's literally no real information in any of that.
That's brilliant.
That's a bunch of nonsense.
I love it. I love it.
Masquerading is information.
Man.
Like, it tells me nothing about anything.
Good.
Nothing.
Good. You know what, RoShawn? Good. Because you shouldn't be out here reading the backs of books we're covering. You know what? That's what you get.
Normally I don't. And I'll tell you what, it's funny. The only reason I did is because I was grabbing them because I have the little paperback collection that Jamie gave me. And
right.
I was like, shit, which book is the next book? Right? Make sure I'm picking the right one. And so I grabbed the two, this one and Dance with Dragons. I'm just like, what, I need to know which book is which, but I don't want to fucking read anything,
Mm-hmm,
So I was hoping on the back it would just be like book 4, It didn't. It doesn't say that.
It doesn't
at all.
say on the spine either?
Nope.
That's so weird.
Nope. It doesn't say it on the front. It just says, all these books.
On the side, it just says IYKYK.
So I went to the end and I was like, all right, well, I don't want to open anything. So finally I just went to the blurb page at the beginning of the book, and it just tells you the order of books. And I'm like, okay, there it is, book 4. But by that time I had already started reading the back, and once I started, I could not stop.
Oh my God.
Now I'm really curious. I want to go back and read the back of the other ones. the ones we've already done.
Are they right there?
Yeah, I could just scooch my chair
just out of a fun little, just curious.
Let's see if the back of each one is as ridiculous as this one. Because I almost am here for that. They know what they're doing, and they're just like, yeah, we're just going to keep doing that. All right, so all of them have the HBO thing, because these were all published and printed after they came out, so they all have big HBO banners on them. All right, let's look at the first one.
Uh-oh.
All right, let's see. In a land where summers can last decades and winters a lifetime, trouble is brewing. The cold is returning, and in the frozen wastes to the north of Winterfell, sinister and supernatural forces are massing beyond the kingdom's protective wall. At the center of the conflict, like the Starks of Winterfell, a family as harsh and unyielding as the land they were... Oh, really? Sweeping from a land of brutal cold to a distant summertime kingdom of Epicurean plenty, here is a tale of lords and ladies, soldiers and it's the same shit! Soldiers and sorcerers, assassins and bastards who come together in a time of grim omens. Amid plots and counterplots, tragedy and betrayal, victory... These are just a bunch of words! It's not telling you anything! This is all nonsense. Oh,
I really want. How would you do it? What would you? How would you sum up?
I don't want to play that game. I'm not interested in that game.
Oh, okay, interesting. A lot of big talk for somebody who's just like, no, I don't want to play.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot to say about how other people do a job I have no interest in doing. Isn't that the way, though?
Indeed.
Oh, shit. But I am excited. I am excited to get into this one. I'm very, very excited that it's going to be, again, I said before, and I'll say it again, veering away from what I know from the show.
Definitely, yeah.
So I'm going to be relieved of some of that anxiety that I carry with me. And also just getting to know what the fuck all you book readers have been talking about for so long. Because even though we've done the 3 books, I don't feel like a book reader yet.
Very much.
I still don't feel like a book reader. So I'm really, really excited to see exactly what the fuck all this noise is about. See if it's up, if it lives up to the hype.
Speaking of noise and hype. I did that up against my butt. It was my hip, really, technically, but Welcome, new patrons. We're delighted to have you. And I want to say hi this week to Anna Martin, Madeline Burkholder, Zeus Invictus, and Chris Cook. Welcome to all of you people. I am so glad to have you. I hope that you're enjoying the patrons only stuff. There's so much of it. And I have had some issues with folks being able to get onto the website. Let me know if you're having problems. It seems like some folks are able to get on via desktop, but not on their phone, or vice versa. But I went in and tried to reconnect, and hopefully things are smoothed out by now. But yeah, that's RoShawn and I are getting into Redemptor, the second book in Raybear. After that, we're going to be picking back up on Ted Lasso. And that's going to be around June by the time we're done with Redemptor, if we follow our schedule. And I think that's about it for now. Is there any other news you can think of?
I don't think so.
All right.
I got no news. Good news is good news.
RoShawn and I are going to be talking about potatoes again in a couple of hours. So that's what you're missing out on if you aren't a patron at that level. Potato talk. I just pictured 2 potato head dolls that are made to look like you and me respectively.
Just chatting it up
on a little talk show stage, a little microphone.
I kind of want to see it now.
Tater talk. All right, guys, we love you. Until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.